Talking
Titans.
Welcome to
Did
Talking.
we get it?
Well, we did, and then you interrupted me.
Is that it? Did we do it?
Damn it! We almost did it. Welcome to Talking Titans, the iHorror mini-sode series where we watch and then talk about the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans, now on Shudder. I'm your host, Jonathan Correia. iHorror is the official podcast of iHorror.com, and with me is our iHorror producer, Lindsey Gant. Lindsey, how are you?
Hello, I am doing good. I am at my mom's house in Colorado in a blistery weather, which I'm not used to being in LA most often now, but I am bundled up and I am a good to dish on Dragula.
It's really weird because you're usually just in the other room, but now so when I say like how are you doing, it's no, seriously.
No, really. How are you doing? I haven't seen you.
Yeah, it's been a minute. And also joining us is author, writer, publicist, fellow podcaster, all around one of my favorite people, Waylon Jordan. Waylon, how are you?
I am frozen. People of Colorado, I love you. My husband is from Colorado. We love the cold up there. We do not love the cold in Texas. Fuck all of this. So
yes. What is your temperature today? Where you're at?
Well, when I woke up, it was 50 degrees this morning, and right now it's 10. So
well, when I woke up this morning, it was -10.
Oh, jeez.
All day long.
Screw that. No.
Colorado people are not used to this weather either.
I know, guys. It's been real brutal here in California, too. I'm wearing one of my ponchos right now. It's just like a really cold 65 right now. And it's going to drop to like a 45 later. Oh, it's so bad.
No, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
Take me back. I'll be there next week.
I'm really not going to say what I'm thinking right now, John.
I haven't lost.
Hold it in.
I haven't lost my New England blood, if that's what you think. I'm being sarcastic.
Says the guy who's actually in a poncho right now.
Yeah, dude. Lindsay got me this poncho. It's a comfy ass poncho. Yeah. Anywho, before we get into Talking Titans, I just want to say, disrespectfully, fuck all of you.
Disrespectfully.
The second to last episode, opening up with Coco. First of all, everyone's already like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Oh, again, always making it about themselves. And then Coco just comes in disrespectfully. Fuck all of you. Icon.
What a way to kick off an episode.
Damn, dude. She came hard with the
And not
reads.
only did she read everybody, but she wouldn't let them talk. She wouldn't let them, every time they tried to say something, she's like, no. Oh, okay, Astrid, let's make it all about you all over again. I loved that. I was like, wow.
My favorite was she's reading everybody, and then she goes, oh, and Hoso, because everyone else has chimed in about something except Hoso. So she's like, it was almost like she was trying to sneak out of the room, and Coco just grabbed her by the wig and was like, bitch, you're in this too. How does it feel to be the smartest person in the room? I mean, again, it's one of those things we kind of talked about it the other week where someone calling out everyone else, not a whole lot of like, self, calling out in that, but I think they all needed to hear it. As we saw in the first few minutes, it was immediately back into that. And it's like, Coco made a really good point of like, hey, listen, you have to understand how this type of behavior and this toxicity, even if it's not directly at someone, can affect the vibe and the mood of the room. And if someone is going through real life stuff like Melissa was going with her husband leaving, that's understandable that it would affect her so much.
I'm so glad that she called out Hoso because I've been waiting for anyone to call out Hoso this entire show. Like she's just been dragging on the drama so hard. So being able to call her out in that way was really needed. And I think she took it to heart a little bit. I think everybody kind of took it to heart. And I really appreciate the way that Coco went about it because she went hard and she went firm like a strong parent with a strong not fist. With a parent with a strong will. Saying, you all messed up here and you need to be called out on this. I don't want to have to be the one yelling at you in this way.
Yeah.
This is the only way I'm being heard. And so if you all don't listen to me in this way, and then she pulled it back. She was like, I want to be talking to you about this at this level, but you guys are not listening to me.
Yeah.
How can I have these conversations with you if that's not happening? So I really appreciate it. It was an entire great Coco moment.
this was the only way they were going to listen. And it was interesting to see how afterward everybody's attitude kind of shifted a little bit. Yeah. And it was like, okay, next to the last episode, let's get to work. Let's do the thing.
Yeah, because it wasn't a scream. She didn't scream at them. She raised her voice. She yelled, but she wasn't screaming like, you're a bitch. Fuck you, cunt. It was, I'm talking at a louder volume because you'll listen, but I'm saying things and you're hearing it. I am saying coherent thoughts. She's not just saying you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. She's going around and saying like, this is what we've been seeing. This is what's been going on. Fuck all of you. But then gave time to be like, but listen, we can still be cool. Just like drop this shit. You saw everyone really take it, especially Victoria. Victoria had a moment of like, then let's not be friends. And then like Coco kept saying her bit, totally ignoring it. And then by the end of it, Victoria's like, because I don't want to lose you as a friend. It's like, yeah. So having that moment of like calling people out, but then also taking the moment to, all right, now that we're all vulnerable, let's.
Yes. Now that I have turned you all into raw nerves, let's figure out what we're going to do.
Which was then pushed into this week's Fright Feet because the Boulets had everyone do a lie detector right after.
Which was honestly kind of perfect. They all needed to be shook up a little bit. And then, I mean, we can talk about the trust element that comes out of it also, but it's just, there's a lot that went into it that I think was really helpful for this level.
Well, I mean, the lie detector test answered a lot of important questions like, are you keeping secrets in them titties? Some of them were keeping secrets in them titties,
Some of them were. I'm glad that that's clear.
Important questions like, Hoso, would you dress up as a lizard for Astrid in the bedroom? But more so, it was definitely getting to like hit some real fucking nerves. Like, do you trust your fellow competitors? All of them said no. And then afterwards, they're like, weirdly, that kind of brought us more together and trusting each other more because now we know that we all don't trust each other.
Now that we all know that everybody is in the same place. When they brought it down, it was very interesting to see them ask everyone in the room, are you the one who was sabotaging Coco? And then the reaction afterward when Coco was like, well, I don't know.
Well, they are not sabotaging me, and I might not think that I'm being sabotaged, but something's going on. And then just tells the off-screen producer, don't look at me like that. It's adorable.
Oh, and then, well, maybe you're just haunted. I loved that too. Like, obviously, everything else has been, wiped out, so you must be being haunted.
Coco. The sabotage is coming from within the house.
I do love, though, the ultimate trust they put into the lie detector machine. Like, if I was being on the lie detector machine, I'd be like, this is so dumb. This is so faulty. Like, why are we even doing this? Doesn't make any sense. But they took everything that came out of that as truth. And I think that's fun.
Woo! And asking Astrid, do you think that you belong in the final three? And her saying,
really good.
That was something. When she said no, and they were like, yep, she's telling the truth. I was like, oh, shit.
A moment of self-reflection.
She did clarify in the boudoir that she didn't view herself doing better than any of the others in the room. Like, she still saw herself there and wanted to be there, but she couldn't see herself doing better than the others. And that's understandable, but it's also, that's rough. That's really rough to admit and to kind of think about. And yeah, we saw it affect her into the boudoir. But this week's challenge was a reimagining of classic horror icons. I thought was phenomenal pretty much across the board. Everyone very fantastic, did some really cool spins. I think Eva's made me the saddest because I'm such a huge Mars Attacks fan. I'm obsessed. It's one of my next tattoos. It's going to be Mars Attacks inspired. And her look was so on point, but it was, again, kind of like in the previous season, Bitter Betty did Elvira. It was too on the point. There wasn't too much deviation from that. And her prosthetic was coming off a bit mid-performance too. So that kind of knocked her down in a time when you have to be absolutely perfect.
That's why I like this episode so much, because I loved her performance. I loved that look. That was such a cool look, but still wasn't as good as other people's looks and didn't exactly for the challenge. So that's why I just love this whole final floor show for this episode, because everyone's just so great that it was just such an exciting show altogether. But I loved Eva's look. I don't think that it was better than the other ones who were performing, but I mean, I think it was really good.
And it was interesting to see her do something that no one would expect, because you go into talking about horror icons, Mars Attacks is not the thing that jumps to my mind immediately.
Yeah.
So it was good that she jumped outside the box on that and did something really cool. And like, I think it was Joe Bob told her, I don't think of them as icons, but if they're iconic to you, then go for it. That kind of thing, which was really cool. We do have to talk about Coco here, though, because Coco did full drag and did the Boulet Brothers, and holy shit. She was amazing. She looked fucking amazing.
She nailed it. Oh my God. The look, the performance, and then also twisted enough to make it exactly her own.
Yeah, it was such a great blend of the Boulets and Coco's drag that just came together so cohesively. And she was fucking hot. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
No,
we all
I'm
think
not.
Coco's
I'm not
hot.
apologizing. I was definitely crushing on Coco's Boulet look, but yeah, she nailed the performance too. I thought that was the funniest fucking thing that they're like, let the floor show begin, and then it's a repeat of the Boulets intro, but with Coco instead, and then she does her impression, and she ends on that like perfect like little doing their sign off, but even the sign off was a bit of Coco where she adds her own little inflection and then her.
It was so good. And honestly, I was thinking about it. I was like, I want to see Coco in that same position of the Boulets. Like I could see her being the host of one of these shows just in how she performed that well. I would love to see more of that.
I think we all agree Coco needs her own show. I don't know what the fuck it would be, but just give her own show where it's just like, half of it is her taking bong rips and talking about ghost stories. And then the other half is like some form of competition that she gets to read people on. Then another great legendary look to come out of this one was Victoria with her Crypt Keeper, which was not expected.
Not expected, but again, nailed it. I mean, like the perfect sort of taking the icon and making it your own. I mean, with that god awful brown, I mean, just that's the worst color ever. And she somehow still made it work,
If she hadn't nailed the performance, which is the voice and the puns, if she hadn't nailed those, she would have bottomed, because that look is, you can't do much more with the Crypt Keeper without deviating too much from it. But she nailed it. She really did make a drag Crypt Keeper come to life. And she had the book that when you open it, it's Tales from Dragula. Like such fun details in there.
Yeah, John, she would have bottomed so hard had she.
Yeah, see, Lindsay, I was going to let that go. I was just going to let that go. But hey,
I was letting it go, and I was like, nobody's going to let this go. Why would I let it go? Bring it to the surface.
Bring it to the top.
How hard
no, John,
exactly would she bottom?
You guys call me out. I don't try. I don't try with this.
But seriously, she did so good. And I honestly thought she was lip singing to a track of the Crypt Keeper initially. Like the voice was so on. Yeah. I don't know like where that came from, because, we've been laughing at her entire season about her inability to act line.
Fine.
So like, from that whole bit, I don't know where that came from.
She's had such a hard time with any kind of performance. I mean, she can work a look and everything, but as far as a performance goes, nobody was expecting that from her at all. And to just see it. But of course, earlier in the episode when she like pulled out that fake knife and started chasing everyone around the boudoir, I mean, I didn't expect that either. And that was a lot of fun. It's like she finally got to the point where she was just like, okay, let me just cut loose and have some fun this season, because she'd been working so damn hard the entire time.
Yeah.
It was nice seeing her cut loose a bit, because she is, I don't know if it's how she presents herself or how she's presented in the edit, but she definitely comes off
uptight.
I wouldn't even say uptight, but just like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh man, you're the coolest person in the room. I'm nervous around you, and then like they're just quietly standing there, and then you go to talk to them and you're like, oh, you're just a person. She's presented on a pedestal so much that it seems unapproachable, but she is very approachable. She's very fun. I love seeing her cut loose.
I would so approach, but we've already discussed that. Anyway.
So on to Hoso, who's...
Hoso killed it. I loved that look with Samara, or rather...
Not Samara.
Yeah.
Very clear.
I just lost the name.
Sadako.
I had it. I mean, she killed it. I loved what she did with the VHS tapes and the hair and everything. It was a really cool look.
Yeah, and what they showed of the performance, she went for it. She was crawling all over the floor. She had like the hair all over her face and whatnot. And this was, again, she's doing, I don't know if she heard our critiques. Probably not. I mean, this is all pre-taped. but she didn't go too much with things, you know, like she had all these different elements, but it was all tight. It was all in there. It made sense. It wasn't just like building onto it, like just keeping adding Legos to a set. It felt very cohesive with her wet hair and then the hair being incorporated into the dress. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
I definitely did like this look quite a bit. And I know that it already is a movie character, but I kind of want to see Hoso's interpretation as the movie character, like, you know, with a very strong characterization of the face and that makeup that she does and the stringy hair. It was just a very cool look that I could definitely see in a movie like that. So I mean, it's probably not one of my favorite looks of hers. She's done really great looks, really top notch from her.
And she's always so detail oriented. Everything, nothing is half done when she does it. I mean, she may do too much, but nothing is half done while she's doing it.
Right.
The judges were correct in saying that, like, maybe if she hadn't done all the VHS tapes or the TV bits, that they would be harder to recognize who that character was, but because she right off the bat presented it in that way, we knew immediately who she was and was able to frame it in that context. So context is always important. So she did that really well.
Yeah. I think she learned her lesson on making sure people knew what she was after Hagfish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hagfish. You don't know about hagfish?
Hagfish.
It's a Korean specialty.
Now, the final performer that we haven't discussed that had a bit of trouble with the context was Astrid with her cyberpunk predator look, which I didn't hate, but it felt more like it was a cyberpunk warrior that was emulating Predator than cyberpunk Predator, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the look never came together for me. I knew what she was doing because she told us what she was doing, but the look, it never solidified for me. I don't know. When you get down to that final cut and you know two people are going home and whatever, I mean, you can't leave anything out, and she did not feel like she had completed what she was trying to do.
I think it was a really solid look if she was at the club or at Burning Man.
Yeah,
and that would have been like, you know, the highlight of the entire night, probably at one of those clubs, is seeing that kind of character, but just wasn't up to par for what we're seeing for other competitors.
It was a great look that I think would have made her pretty safe earlier in the season, but
yeah,
for getting into top three, especially in comparison to the others, it just wasn't quite there.
Well, and let's face it, Melissa nailed the Predator earlier in the season. So coming off of that seeing that, that's and right, then you come in with this, I mean, it's going to pull comparisons.
Yeah.
Melissa definitely nailed it more than Astrid did.
And so that's where we ended up. We ended up with Hoso, Victoria, and Coco moving on with the top looks of the night, and Eva and Astrid in the bottom. The Boulets already said earlier, too, before the judges' deliberation, that when it came to the wrestling episode, they saved Eva. That was the one that was going to go home that night. And because she didn't make top this week, should they send her home? So they kind of spelled out like, no, these two are definitely going home tonight before then. But we still had to sit in the boudoir with them while they were, because the boudoir after this whole season has felt like this is where they make their last stand. This is where they make their comments to everybody. I don't know how much of that actually factored into it, but it felt very raw. Like going in there, it's like, oh, we know you two are kind of going home tonight. Like, yeah, this seems a little fruitless.
But go on and say what you got to say. I mean, you know, at this point, might as well.
And then, of course, they both ascended. They had all the competitors ascend this time.
Except for Hoso.
Yeah, because Hoso won the challenge. And so the remaining the other four competitors all ascended the mountain. Coco and Astrid ascended the mountain, and we saw Astrid go home. And it was in that moment you really saw in Eva's face, fuck, I'm going home. I'm up against Victoria right now. There's no way. And she was right. She went home, but they went out strong, man. Like Eva and Astrid did some really great art this entire season. I know Astrid never won a competition, but she still put out some really great stuff. And this is definitely not the last we'll hear of these two performers. They're both phenomenal, but we do have our final three now for Titans.
And you know what? Let's call it there. We're done.
Yeah.
We're not going forward with something else. That was the finale. And oh my God, there were 3 winners. It was fantastic.
Well, real quick, before we do go into the finale, let's talk guest judges. We had Joe Bob Briggs and Harvey Guillen, which are always fun to see, fun to have on. Again, these are guests that, again, I would love to have like an after show with them, like just, you know, have the Boulets talk with them a bit more, especially Harvey Guillen, because I don't know a whole lot about him outside of his involvement with What We Do in the Shadows Love to hear more.
Yeah, I
from
mean,
them.
that would be a really great instance to have them on the podcast to chat about all this stuff. If you're going to have them come on the show, that means that it means something to them. So why not let's hear more about who these people are that Boulets want to bring onto the show.
Build it into the production day. An hour at the end of the day. Just to sit down and interview people.
Yeah, I'd be definitely interested in hearing that.
So
then there was a finale.
Then, like, approximately a week after that episode, the finale
tragedy
happened.
struck.
I don't know about tragedy. Let's start from the top. So we have the top three, and it's the finale. And this episode already started off on a totally different vibe. There was a lot of talk very early in the episode about how this is kind of like the closing of the first chapter of Titans, signifies the closing of one chapter of Dragula. And so it felt a little special. The Fright Feet challenge for the three was to come on to the Boulets podcast, Creatures of the Night.
Was it really, though? I mean, was that really a fright feat? We've been eating brains. We have been digging through guts and everything else. And now, okay, we're going to have a fright feat where you get to come on the podcast and talk to us. What the hell?
Which they did previously, but they did one-on-one interviews, which I don't think they used in the podcast. Just saying, that's a little saying you're bringing them onto the podcast, but then we don't hear the things on the podcast. But they brought all three at once, so I feel like the challenge was to see like how they would handle kind of a media thing while trying to be seen while with others, because it was all three of them at once. But like it was just a nice little interview. You know, there was some tea spilled, there was fun anecdotes.
They looked fabulous. I mean, all three of them looked amazing coming on there.
Coco tweeted afterwards a picture of her from that, said she came dressed for their funeral.
And she did, suited up.
Dressed to the nines. As much of a fright feat, it's a little bit back to the arm wrestling. It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, kind of.
I do see how it's like really good to have that kind of interview as like a who do we think will be able to take on the Dragula lineage and just to go and talk about Dragula to more people and kind of thing. You know, it's all part of a show and a spectacle and who can take that on. I see why that'd be valuable. I don't think it's right to call it a fright feat. But I mean, I enjoyed the interview. I think they've done it before where they've had interviews and it was fine. I really liked Victoria's interview. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought it was really charismatic and really fun hearing that conversation. So
yeah, again, all of a sudden coming into the last couple of rounds, suddenly Victoria had all of the personality that Victoria needed in this moment.
Yeah.
But again, as like the final challenge thing, and even they changed it up with the floor show. They said that the floor show had to show off all the tenets of drag, which at first sounds very exciting. It's, oh shit, they're going to incorporate filth, horror, glamour, horror. It's going to be great. It's going to be all the tenets, because usually those final floor shows are so insane. It's like, oh shit, you really went for it with the filth. Oh shit, you really went for it with the thing. Now you have to incorporate all of it. And then we get to the floor show and it's every other floor show, because that's what the regular floor shows are. The regular floor shows are them doing all the tenets of drag or trying to do all of them. So I think by combining them, again, it sounds exciting on paper, but when it goes into practice, it's hard to execute, especially with what little time they have, what little, prep they get, with all of that. Don't get me wrong, they were all solid performances, but it didn't feel like a finale performance from most of them. And again, I'm not knocking the art. I'm not knocking what they did, because they were all great. It's the finale. You're expecting something crazy. You're expecting something big. You're expecting something insane. It's hard. It's again, when your first season finale ends with Melissa B. Fierce coming down the runway as a naked, bloody nun with rosary beads up her ass. Like, you have expectations.
I really appreciated the craft that went into this last episode in terms of Coco, like making those legs for the spider. Those were insane. And then Victoria creating the entire mannequin of herself. It actually looked like herself. Then you had Hoso make those giant arms off of her creature. They're all very cool and very well made and well crafted. So I really appreciated seeing the craft of those features, but the performances to me all across the board just were not there. It was more just like demonstrating some of the aesthetic. I mean, Victoria was doing a whole thing showing here's where she came from and here's where she is now. And here's her presenting herself as this like fully formed figure. And it was like interesting, but a bit too self-reflective on the nose for my interest in seeing at this point in time. Just wasn't really what I wanted to see from her. It's not like I want to see her in her fully formed. I want to see where she's going to go now. I want to see more excitement. Like, is this the most she can do? Where is she going to go from here?
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was more of like a grand tour of what she's done, not where she's going from here.
Coco, again, took it for me with it, because not only did she make those spider legs, but kind of like what Astrid did with the octopus and like getting the sway of the floor down. She was really killing it doing the duck walks as the spider. And
that was so fun. I love that.
And eating all the people on stage. That was so fun.
The way the legs
slapping a little ass
on the floor.
I mean, just
oh yeah. I
mean, come on. She did put on a hell of a performance, but the energy of the entire episode just felt really subdued compared to what we had seen for the rest of the season. I don't know, was that just me, or was it like
not just you? Absolutely.
It all just felt really low energy going into that final show.
Even the song choice, I understand, it's a Boulet Brothers original, but even like that song, it didn't feel like a finale song. If it was an earlier challenge thing, awesome. It was very subdued. It wasn't there. It wasn't Time to Die, which had a bit more energy, which is also just like a silly song. I admittedly like Time to Die. It's silly.
Stop. You do not. We've made fun of that song so much.
I know. It's
more
it's
catchy than
song.
that song from last night.
Yes. And that's infectious.
Yeah. I just really don't understand why boulets have to do everything. You don't have to be musicians right now on top of everything and then force them to perform to your songs. Like, I can't imagine like running a show and then being like, oh, and then everybody's going to sing my song and then come on there and then do that song, which is like is inherently not a great song. So I don't know why they're trying to make that part a thing when they have so much else going for them. It just felt extremely forced when they do things like this.
Well, and that was kind of one of the things with this finale episode was how much of it I would understand if it felt more celebration and like extravagant and big of celebrating where Dragula has come from and where it is now. But the tone didn't feel like that. It did feel more somber. It almost felt like an end.
Yeah.
Not a happy one. And it was like, we have to incorporate everything. We have to incorporate the podcast. We have to incorporate the music career. We have to and don't forget, after we reveal the winner, which we'll get to in a second, we have to spend a minute or two talking about the world tour, and it just kind of felt like, I don't know. It felt like the show was ending and it was like, don't forget these other things that we do because AMC is shutting down, that's kind of, it might just be because, I'm reading on the news a bit too much with what's happening with AMC networks, but it really felt like don't forget these other things we do just in case Shudder doesn't exist next year.
Yeah. And I really hope that's not the case. I really
it better
hope
not be the case. Shudder's like the best thing going for it right now.
Exactly.
But this whole last season or last episode really felt like the problem I was having with the season in total was the Boulets just had this hand on it the entire time and they didn't want us to forget that. So anytime that they were like, we're the Boulets, we're going to change things up. And that's just because this is what we want to do going forward. This is how we're going to change things. And don't you forget that we're the ones in charge here. And that's great. It's their show. It's what they want to do. But it feels like a little bit too heavy handed.
Especially when some of it seems so chaotic. I mean, like, there was no one in charge.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if that's part of what was going on in the last episode too, is like, no, we're still in charge. We're still the head of this, even though things have been completely crazy the entire time we've been doing this season. It was really weird. And then after they all get through performing,
we don't see him again.
We never see him again.
Which is extremely wild because every other season, we've at least had an episode where there was the Last Supper where they come and talk and dish on the entire season with all the other competitors and just kind of just get things out in the open and talk about things and see where they're at. Or they come back on and have the final judging element and then announce who was the winner. And so, but this episode, we had none of that.
No, instead we're treated to a digital hallway with everyone's paintings up and they each get a little quote.
Everyone from the season. So you saw everybody who had left and then had a little tiny voice soundbite.
Which at first I was here for because, of course, it starts off with Teletubby Toilet Bowl.
Yeah.
I was so happy that Toilet Bowl got another shout out, but it kept going, and I was like, "This is a little weird. This is like
We should be crowning somebody right now. Like, what's happening?"
And I was like, "Oh, this is leading up to the crowning," and then it ends. And I got to give credit to whoever said it on Twitter. It ends on a JPEG announcing that Victoria won, which she earned. She earned like a motherfucker, but that's it. It just ends on a photo. And then a minute commercial for the world tour, which don't get me wrong, we're getting tickets. We're going in May, but it felt so anticlimactic.
She absolutely earned it more than anybody. She's come on to the show 3 times now and has been fighting her ass off to get there. And this is what we do to celebrate her win. There was no celebration here.
There was no celebration. And that's the thing. There was no celebration at the end of this. It was just over. We showed her picture. We said that she was the winner, and then it was over. And we didn't get to see, was she excited? What did she say? Nothing. I mean, we got nothing. And it really felt like the Boulets, whatever for the rest of the season, but they tripped on the finish line with this one.
It's kind of a problem that I've had with most of the finales on the show is when I love the blood being dropped on them. That's very dramatic and very cool when that happens. But then you don't really get them to say anything else afterwards. It just cuts to black and goes to credits after that. And I want to have more of like, what are you feeling right now? Like, where do you want to go from here? This is so exciting. I want to hear more from you. But they never do that. They always cut it off.
Disagree. And now I love that. I love that so much.
You love that? But now they're like, haha, fuck you, Lindsey. You're not going to get anything whatsoever. We're going to just completely cut to black without not even giving you the Carrie moment.
Which I will admit, for like the first 4 seasons and what they did with Resurrection, I always loved the build up. Here it is and done. Like, I've always loved that. When it first happened, I was just like, what? It caught me off guard so much. And then it became such a fun thing to expect. But to see it go so much further with it, it makes me go, now I don't know how I feel about how you have been ending it. Yeah, it's rough, man. The Twitter responses have been insane. People accusing World of Wonder, who produces RuPaul, from stealing the footage from the finale to what was the one of the Nathan Fielder one where he's like, look what I got for your dinner. Nothing. Yeah, no, Twitter and Reddit and the Shudder Titans reviews are all just going nuts for this episode in a negative way. But it's understandable because let's look back on the season. Let's talk about the season as a whole, because as a whole, they weren't joking when they were going like, this is the Gagula season. They might have gone a bit too hard with it, but like, it was bigger. These were some of the best competitors to have ever been on the show. This was some of the hardest challenges, some of the hardest fright feats. For the most part, there was a couple of weeks where it was like, okay, we're just having fun here. But let's not forget that drowning fucking fright feat. That was horrible. And then all of a sudden it just kind of ends. They were going so hard for so long, and it's been an insane season. And, we've talked about it before, saying thank you for bringing back early 2000s reality show level of like, drama and ratchetness, and then it ends on a JPEG. I can't get that thought out of my head. As soon as I saw the tweet, I was like, I'm sure it wasn't a JPEG, but yeah,
could very well have been.
Felt like it.
Yeah, I mean, I did like this season as a whole. Like, I really had a lot of fun with it. I think I really enjoyed the people who were on it. People were fighting like crazy to get to the end, and it really showed. And there were really some spectacular players here. It wasn't my favorite season of Dragula. I think there's been a lot more interesting ones. I love season 3. I think it's probably one of my favorites. Then season 4 is also really great. I mean, all of them are really great. Like, I love those seasons for their very unique ways. But I think this one felt a little bit too polished in a way that like felt like I missed some of the earlier Dragula that felt a bit scrappy and trying to pull it together instead of having actual money where they can make it shine. But I kind of miss the grime. Miss
the punk rock nature of those early seasons a bit, yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about Coco quite a bit, is she really brought punk rock to it in a thing that felt very not punk rock.
Waylon, what were your overall thoughts on the season?
I had a lot of fun, and just sitting and watching all of the work, I think that's one of the things that I do love so much about drag. And one of the things that I love about shows like this is that I don't think people outside of the community realize how much work really goes in to every look, to every, this is not just pulling a wig out of a bag and throwing it on and that kind of thing. I love that we got a lot of that. I love that we saw them really working. I love them having to work together and work against one another and everything. I mean, it had the drama. It had, so many of the things that you want out of a show like this. But I really think, unfortunately, that this season is going to be sort of judged by the finale. And I think that's a real shame, because there was so much that we saw throughout the entire season that was just fabulous. I mean, the looks were amazing. The work was so good. And then to have it come down to this, I really feel bad for everybody involved.
I feel like if they were actually having problems with finalizing the show for whatever reason, they should have just cut the last episode and been honest about saying, we can't provide the level of quality we want to do for the show. We're going to announce the winner in our tour, and we're gonna try to do some sort of like performance there and have that be it. Something else besides just letting it fall apart, because I also wish they were more upfront with like the fans and things with what's going on, because they're being constantly questioned about it across social media, but they're just kind of turning a blind eye or turning their head to it a little bit in a way that I just wish was more spoken about by what happened, because obviously something went wrong. Like that's just not the level of quality we've come to know and understand from the Boulets.
It felt like, remember at the very beginning of the pandemic when there was a lot of shows that hadn't finished their seasons yet, and then their seasons came out in those first few months, or like...
Yes, it felt like the coronavirus just started popping out right then. They had to close it real fast.
Yeah, so they couldn't finish like their final episode, or they couldn't finish the thing, and they would do like it would either like a storyline just suddenly stops, or like they cut to, what was it, Blacklisted, that really bad animation episode. For some reason, they didn't even hire animators. They hired storyboard makers for it. That was a weird period of television, but that's kind of what it felt like. Something happened and they had to put something together.
And it was fully digital. Like that's really the telltale sign that it had to be done in post. Something had to be fixed, and there wasn't anything else that they could have done to have actual footage of it.
And I really do hope, because I know Twitter and the internets and we are as well are being very critical of it, but a lot of work went into this show, so much. And even this finale, I'm sure they had so much. It's insane the amount of man hours and prep and everything that goes into doing this, both with the contestants and the crew and the producers, everything. It's just insane to think like, something had to happen. I don't know if this is going to become another like conspiracy. Is Twitter right that it's World of Wonder went in and ran off with the footage? I don't know. One question I have, do you think they did, because of course Titans is kind of, Dragula's All-Stars series, right? You think they did it too soon? Does this finale have you feeling like maybe you're doing an All-Stars thing a bit too soon? Or
I think it might depend on what they do after this, because if they then take Victoria and do something interesting with her, I kind of just more want to see what they do after the fact, because there have been several seasons and several we want to see back. And so I think it was a great opportunity to pull some of those people back and see where they're at now and how was their skill developed. And so I think that's really great. And I think calling it Titans is just good way of saying these are the people that we think were doing really great. They didn't make it as far as they should have. Let's see what they can do now. And so I think it's fine to have this Titans now. I hope they have like more Titans or bring back more people. But I also want to have opportunities. I mean, season 5 is being casted right now with all fresh new people. So that's happening. So maybe there'll be more Titans. I'm not sure about that, but I do like that we had people come back that we had seen in the past. And I wouldn't want to get to like season 8 or 9 and bring back somebody from season 1, because it's a bit too far away from that at that point, several years between.
Oh, I'd love that, because my thinking with it is I'd like another season of Titans. I'd like to wait a couple seasons, get some more fresh meat in there.
Oh, for sure.
And then, are you kidding me? Of course I want someone from season 1 to come back for Titans, because I need Meatball back.
Yes, Meatball, come back.
Meatball needs to be in Titans season 2. And not just because I met her and she's such a nice person and so great and so funny, but also she's just a great competitor. She was awesome season 1. So I'd love to see what she could bring on a Titans stage, you know? What about you guys? Who's someone that you would want to bring back for Titans season 2?
You should have gave us these questions before we started recording.
Yeah,
I just thought
now
of
I'm just like I just blanked on everybody who's been on this show.
that wasn't on Titans.
Right.
It's everybody, it's all gone. I want to see Eva again. She's already in Titans. Can she be in Titans season 2? Because I feel like for the people that I was thinking about that also with like Hoso. Like we've seen her do so well the last 2 seasons. Is that it for Hoso for Dragula? Like she's going to be on tour because she made the final 3. Mm-hmm. But like, will she be able to ever compete again to have that title? Like Victoria was able to go 3 times. Will there be more opportunities for that in that way? Like who knows? Like what's gonna happen there? Eva's someone I don't want to see fall into the mist.
I mean, if it's been a couple of years, I'd like to see Sigourney come back. I think Sigourney. I think if Sigourney Beaver, really, if something one of the factors is how much has this competitor changed since then, because a lot of the competitors that we had on Titans, their art has changed quite a bit. It's also why Dolly was brought back. Season 4 was because her art changed immensely. And so she was like a completely different competitor. And that was the same for a lot of these competitors on this season. Even Erica, our little Candy Crush she upped her game immensely and she adapted her art since her season. So I think that's a huge factor. And I don't know how on speed I have been with a lot of these competitors post-season, but Priscilla Chambers is definitely one I'd like to see again. I
know who I want to see back. And I was surprised that I wish that she could have been here for this one. I think she could have made it. Was La Zavaleta.
Oh, Zavaleta.
From season 4. I hated her first couple of episodes. Oh my God. But she immediately flipped and was one of my favorites through all of season 4. I loved her so much.
Could you imagine Zavaleta in the middle of this fucking drama?
Oh my God.
That bitch would have, I don't know if there would have been drama because I think Zavaleta would have just screamed at everybody. She would have just been like, no, motherfucker, I'm the drama.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Zavaleta.
Love Zavaleta. Also, I want to see more Priscilla Chambers. Want to see her come back. I know she was in 2 seasons now.
She had her season in Resurrections.
I feel like she could have been a Titan.
I'd love to see Kendra come back and take another shot at it.
Kendra, really, I feel like I really do also. I don't know. I have so much heart for her.
I do. And she was a lot of fun this season, but she never could get it quite together. And I think she's still growing as an artist, and I would love to see her come back.
Yeah. And then, of course, another person we would love to see come back. Maybe not for her looks. I'm not sure. I liked her looks. Her performance is great. But Disasterina.
Oh, bitch.
Quite the icon. We're kind of running low on Disasterina pull quotes that we can use. So we need to have more of those.
Well, we saw her live at Midsummer Scream where she did her performance to her Krampus song, which was incredible, as always. I'd love to see Louisiana Purchase come back.
Oh, yes. Louisiana, for sure.
She became a drag mother towards the end of her season 2, Priscilla, and I think that would be great, seeing mom and daughter go against each other. I think
that's cute. Fun. I like that.
And I always liked Louisiana Purchase. I always admired her drag and got to see her perform during the pandemic with an Alamo Drafthouse streaming presentation with, what was it? The documentary about the Church of Satan. That was real fun. The movie sucked, but her performance was great.
Yeah, that was great. There's a lot of great people in the past few seasons that I would love to see back again. But I also would like to see more from maybe even the winners of past seasons. Like, that'd be interesting to see like a showdown between all the winners of Dragula and see who can come out on top in that way. Little March Madness going on.
Well, I think with that, we would need to get to at least season 10. Like, I think that's like a season 11, 12, because you need 10 contestants, right? And it's like, who's the ultimate drag monster? We're bringing everyone back.
I mean, it could be a completely different format. It doesn't have to follow the same format, but what are some great things we can see coming from these people? I kind of just haven't really known like what they've been doing. Maybe it's because I just haven't really been following them. Is it mostly just following along with Boulets? Have they been have their own drag experiences blown up exponentially other places? Like, I'm curious to know what they experience now that they've won Dragula.
Yeah.
What do you do after the tour ends?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
great to see Saint back on the series, though, or the season as a judge, and also Dolly.
I've seen contestants pop up in various things. Bitch Pudding performs pretty regularly. Also was in Disasterina's web show for a while after season 2, which was, it's Disasterina's web show. There's not a lot that you can't expect, but also can expect from her. And then everyone, has their local haunts and whatnot. So, there's also other live competitions too. Because remember, Dragula wasn't always a reality show. It was a competition. And I think they made mention of it in previous seasons. I think it was Astrid or someone won a in-person Dragula competition. So I think that's, ways of finding people and finding what they're doing with their art. All I have to say is final thoughts is that final episode was a bit disappointing. There were some really great moments in it, though. The interviews were a lot of fun. It was great seeing everyone's personality coming out, whether it was the first time or the millionth time hearing from everybody. Their final looks were all just fantastic. And I'm really excited for the future because, it's what a great time to be living where there's like 20 goddamn drag shows on TV right now. I just started watching Trixie Motel. And you want to talk about heavy hand of like reality show producer hands in there? My God, love you, Trixie. Love the show, but damn, does it feel like a Discovery Channel reality show?
Do y'all watch We're Here on HBO?
Oh, yeah.
We do, yep.
God, I just weep every week. Every new episode. Yep. Like, just whoever came up with this show and decided to put Shangela, who is probably about 45 minutes from me right now because she's from Paris, Texas, and I'm in Commerce, and she's home for Christmas, and you don't think I haven't thought about going and driving around Paris just to see if I can find Shangela if it was not so cold outside. That's all I'm saying. Shangela and Bob and Eureka, and I just love them. I love that show. And there is so much drag on TV right now. I love that. I love that this, in the midst of everything that is going on in this country with so much of the alt-right and the shit that they're pulling, showing up with guns to protest a drag queen story hour and things like that, to see all of this positive positive outlook for drag on television. I love it. I love seeing all of it right now.
And various forms of it too. It's not just one kind, and it's not just one kind of entertainment or art, because we have, just even between the examples that we listed just now, we have Dragula, which is awesome with it, the horror and the alternative drag. I'm so thankful that side of things is being shown. But then you also have, of course, RuPaul and like the 20 spinoffs of Drag Race. You have We're Here. You have Trixie Motels. Those are all different forms of television that feature drag.
And appeals to different audiences.
Yeah, they appeal to different audiences. They tell different stories, but and they tell them in different formats. They get into the nitty gritty on so many different aspects. It's just so great. The wealth of knowledge that's getting out there through the form of reality show TV entertainment is really awesome, because we are that can help change minds, that can help expose people to lifestyles that aren't their own. It's fantastic. Yeah, if you don't want to watch a hotel get remodeled, cool, you have another show to watch. Or if you want to watch something that will make you cry, cool, you can watch We're Here. And if you just want to see some messy bitches put on fucking fantastic performances that just happen to incorporate a lot of skin and blood and camp, we got Dragula, baby.
We got Dragula, and I love Dragula. More Dragula, please.
I really do hope that the creators and makers of Dragula take the critiques and, the feedback from the finale that people have been very open to express. Very, very open to express. And they take that with stride, and they take that as okay, well, let's not do that again. And they go forth and do more. I don't know if they have to go bigger. I don't know if they have to go smaller. I don't know what they need to do. All I know is they need to just keep going, because I love it. It's great. I'm so excited to see what they do next. And yes, I do like Time to Die. Fuck off. It's catchy.
Time.
Not saying it's a great song. I'm just saying, like, I do occasionally hum it every now and then.
Yes, it's an earworm. That's why. Well, thank you so much, guys, for doing this podcast. Like, I really enjoyed talking with you guys about this, and I'm sad that it's come to an end, but maybe we can meet up again for the next time that Dragula pops around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. When I message you all saying, hey, is this a thing? Is this a thing that we should do?
I always know my life is going to get a little interesting when Jonathan slides into my DMs. You just never know what it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting.
I don't reach out often to people, but when I do, there's stuff.
For interesting things sometimes.
It could be, it could just be a video of like, a kid falling on its face, or it could be, hey, let's do a podcast together.
Let's do a podcast.
Yeah, never know. So if you ever get a DM from me, watch out. Well, thank you guys again so much. This has been such a great outlet for me. Again, I don't have anyone else to talk to about Dragula in my life at this moment. So this has been an amazing outlet for me.
And thank you to our iHorror fans also who are listening into this, because I mean, this is a really big part of horror culture as well. And so we're excited to, share this with you all, and hope if you haven't seen Dragula, maybe this might have intrigued you to go and watch the show and start expanding a little bit on your drag culture and get excited about it as we are going forward. So let us know if you like this, and maybe we can do some more kind of spin-off series related, of course, horror related in one way or another, but we'll see where we can go from here.
We are going to do a horror-related episode where we're just talk about Ken Russell's masterpiece, Whore. That's on the table.
Horror-related.
Horror-related. But no, it's been great, and I hope those listening at home have been entertained. I know we have for certain. So again, our opening music is Sped Up Restless Spirit. Please give them a listen. Our artwork is by Chris Fisher. Thank you to the other members of the Ion Horror family for putting up with me and Lindsey and Waylon kind of jumping in and doing this. Thank you. Thank you to iHorror.com, our official sponsors and the place where we call home. We wouldn't be able to do this or Ion Horror without iHorror.com. So if you ever need any of your horror news, fucking check us out, dude. It's a fun site. Waylon still writes there. If you're looking for more content, we do have the season finale of Ion Horror coming up. If we're off, don't forget to check out Murmurs from the Morgue, our sister podcast that's hosted by Bree and Kelly from iHorror.com. They're pretty great. You can find us on all the social medias at Ion Horror. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's about all we have right now. Lindsey and I manage those, so you don't need to look for our personal accounts. That's not needed. Waylon.
Yeah, don't slide into my DMs. I'm here to slide into yours. Don't slide into mine.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Nailed
it on the head. Speaking of, Waylon, where can we slide into your DMs?
Oh, well. Well, you can find me on Instagram at Waylon.Jordan. You can find me at WaylonVox1 on Twitter. And you can also find Off Limits Press, which is my publishing house, at Off Limits Press. On Twitter as well, and on Instagram. Come find us. We've got lots of good books, and we've got lots of new good books coming out next year. I can't wait for everybody to see.
What's the name of your current one that just came out?
Divergent Terror, which is a collection of essays from queer authors from around the world talking about their relationship with horror and how they became horror fans and what they find in it that they relate to, which has just been amazing. It was just really cool to put that collection together. And I personally have a book coming out in a couple of weeks because it's called Taking Possession. So, as long as I'm throwing everything else out there, check my new book out too. So
yeah, and he's being modest. He also has another podcast that he does called Gunkle Waylon's Place.
Yes, and I've only gotten the first couple of episodes out, but I do have more coming. Family stuff got in the way. Had a lot of family stuff go on in the last month, but I will be back very soon, and we've got some more stuff coming. So come hang out with Gunkle Waylon.
If you haven't listened to it yet, it's fantastic. It's very relaxing. I love the format. Waylon, I said at the top of the episode, you're one of my favorite people. So, of course, I'm going to plug all your shit. Come on. What's the point of having this platform without it?
Well, and I just like to take the opportunity to just hang out with y'all and talk horror. I mean, why not? Let's do it.
And with that, thank you again, listeners, for coming in. We'll see you next time on. It might not be Talking Titans. Maybe we'll have to change the name to Dragging Dragula. I don't know. That sounds
Dragging Dragula.
Well, I'm Jonathan Correia.
And I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Waylon.
And keep talking Titans.
Talking Titans is over.
We're done. That's it.
The end.
Finale.
Fiend.
It was a bit of anticlimactic ending to the podcast too, huh?